Well, this is a little out of the ordinary. I don't think we've ever done a Thanksgiving special before.
No, but this is also kind of going on with the trend.
Yeah, the whole 10 games to get to know us trend that's been going around YouTube lately.
Yep, but as a Thanksgiving special. 5 games that we each give thanks for.
Sounds good to me. Alright, let's get down to it. Tomodachi Life for the 3DS is the second game in Nintendo's Tomodachi series. The first game, Tomodachi Collection for DS, was a Japanese exclusive. To summarize this in the simplest way possible, this is effectively Nintendo's take on Sims, but more kid-friendly and using their Mii characters. The role you play is that of an observer and a supervisor of this island. The main Mii is your lookalike, and will be named as such. You expand your apartment building and fill it with Miis and watch them interact. The reason this makes the list is because it was one of the first games that Bree and I played together. Back when we were still dating, we lived roughly 4 hours apart from each other, and we used to bring our DSs on our dates, and after the dates were over, we would play games that used Street Pass and Spot Pass systems, using the Miis we traded between each other's 3DSs. When Tomodachi Life came out, and it was effectively a cute and cozy make-your-own-character life sim, Bree and I both got the game, and we would play it independently, having our own island and our own sets of shenanigans, with our Miis and whatever other characters we chose to populate our islands. Thanks to the 3DS's built-in screenshot feature, we could keep each other updated on how life was progressing in our games, and it was a bonding project for while we were separated by distance. Tomodachi Life and the Miis in general have earned a special place in my heart, and I still want to do a full video on this game, as well as finish up my Miitopia playthrough, and I'm highly anticipating the upcoming sequel.
For those of you who don't know about Kingdom Hearts, you play as a character named Sora, and you team up with Donald, Goofy, and other various Disney cast members, or Final Fantasy cast members, as this is one of the greatest crossover franchises of all time. I owe a shocking number of friendships to Kingdom Hearts, as far back as my elementary days going over to the neighbor's house to play Kingdom Hearts 1 with their daughters, playing with my buddy Vaughn, beating Kingdom Hearts 2 for the first time at 3 a.m. on a Thursday, all the way to making friends with a random stranger in a gas station while debating which Keyblade has objectively the goofiest design, Decisive Pumpkin. For a game series that's about the bonds between hearts, I suppose it's kinda on the nose that it has connected mine with as many beautiful people as it has. And I'm forever thankful to this series for that.
This is a game that I brought up time and time again, but have yet to do a full proper analysis video on it. Sadly, that will still have to wait for another day. But I can still tell you why this game is so important to me. Encounters in Space came out in 2003, and it was one of the factors that helped me get into anime and other anime-styled games. At this time, we didn't have home internet, and when I was growing up, we didn't have cable, and we didn't always have satellite. Effectively, for most of my childhood, we had public access TV and VHS rentals. Yes, I'm very old. But it was during one of these stretches when we did have satellite that I first got into Mobile Suit Gundam. My brother and I watched it on Toonami, and we collected the action figures. Then we got a PS2 and Encounters in Space, and were absolutely blown away. My memories are a little fuzzy on some of the specifics about when we first played the game, but it was either during the period when we didn't have access to Cartoon Network, or it was after Mobile Suit Gundam stopped airing. Either way, the game served as something of a substitute, since you played the missions from the TV show, and it had beautifully reanimated cutscenes. And through a combination of having seen most of the episodes that take place right before the start of the game, we effectively got to finish the anime without needing TV channels. Since Toonami was at the height of its popularity at the time, a good number of our friends also played the game with us whenever we'd go over to each other's houses. My brother and I would also use the game's pilot creator mode to make some absolutely absurdly strong characters, most of which were incredibly unbalanced and had one very strong trait, and pair them up with mobile suits that made them incredibly hard to fight. My bro even went so far as to get a unique controller for the game. It looked like a pair of gun handles, and he got so good with this that it became hard for him to use a standard DualShock afterwards. We did try several other joystick controllers, but none of them ever worked for the game. My brother also could do this one move that I still haven't figured out yet, where he literally flies circles around the target. It was great fun, and playing this made me want to expand out and play other Gundam games, as well as collect the DVDs and watch more Gundam series, and was my gateway to exploring more anime in general. Like most of my entries on this list, it's important to me less for what the game was in the moment, and more the impact it had on my life in smaller ways, and the happy memories I formed while playing them.
Chrono Cross has always held a special place in my heart. To this day, it is my favorite older game, initially releasing in 1999, and has only recently been replaced as my favorite overall in this past year. You play as a character named Surge, and are effectively transported to a different world in which you had apparently died in the past, and you hop between this dimension and your home dimension to figure out what fate, quite literally the entity, has in store for you. There's just something about the gameplay and storytelling that have resonated with me throughout the years. The various different paths, each one leading you to new characters with new stories, all of which are treated with the same amount of magnitude and as if they are just as important as everything else that's going on, because they are. And it has affected my dungeon mastering style and tabletop RPGs, as well as my world outlook as a whole, because you never really know what someone else's story is until you try to find out. So, I guess I have to say that I'm thankful for this game for really just fueling my love for RPGs as a whole, because again, it showed me what a story can really consist of, and has had just a huge impact on me as a gamer overall.
It's hard to put into words exactly the magnitude of impact playing this game has had on my life. The first and most obvious should be that it's a Mega Man game, and that would inevitably lead to us making Mega Man content on our channel, which is what drew in the greatest portion of our audience. Any of the other Mega Man games that I played in my life, I wouldn't have played them if I hadn't started with Mega Man X on the Super Nintendo. Over the years, I've only grown more and more fond of this game. Everything from its art style, to its music, to its thematic storytelling, and the fun coincidence that I just happened to be born the same year that the game came out. X and I grew up together, you might say. Along with what I said about Encounters in Space being a gateway to a larger anime world, I think my experience actually goes further back than that, and it can be traced back to Mega Man X. It was one of the first games that I ever played, and it gave me a lifelong fascination with sci-fi, robots, and lasers. I actually don't remember if I watched Star Wars first or played Mega Man X first, but my brother and I used to make jokes that Vile's name was Boba Fett because they don't actually state his name until the end credits, and when we were kids we never actually beat Sigma. And Sigma was an evil Jedi because he fights like one by throwing off his cape and then pulling out a green lightsaber. As my fascination with robots, X was where it all began, and that expanded into things like Transformers, Gundam, Zoids, and Robotech. I played this game countless times, and Mega Man has been a staple of my gaming and general media tastes ever since. After X, the next Mega Man game I remember playing was Mega Man 2 on Game Boy, then Extreme 1 and 2 on GBC, and then X5 on PC. Eventually I caught up with the other games via the Anniversary collections. Then of course we have the excellent remake, Maverick Hunter. This is where this becomes a bit of a sad spot for me. Around 2011 or so, I met a new friend at a convention, and we shared interest in Mega Man, particularly Mega Man X. And we both had a fondness for Vile as a character. She even had some OCs that were based on his design. In 2011, I moved away to go to college, and she was one of the friends that I kept touch with most during this time period. We would talk for hours about all things Mega Man, from sharing OC designs, writing up fan-made story ideas, discussing character battles, and more. When Smash Bros. For 3DS came out, I used the Mii Maker to try to make one of her Mega Man OCs in the game. She had gone by several names on the internet, often with the name Saris or Nova somewhere in there. To my great sadness, during 2020's pandemic, she passed away, and I found out secondhand through someone posting about it on Facebook. While we didn't hang out in person a lot, and those meetings were effectively limited to just meetups at conventions, I still think back on all that time we spent chatting fondly. Since I was living away from home during that time, it was great to have a new friend who was easy to chat with, and we became such good friends because of this wonderful game. And I've made many other friends, both IRL and internet-based, because of the greater Mega Man franchise. As we've seen with this channel and community's growth, our shared love of the Blue Bomber really has a way of bringing people together. And for me, this was where it all started.
Digimon's back, baby! Sorry. I know this is a bit of a newer entry, but it holds a pretty stark significance for me. For those of you who don't know, Digimon essentially is my childhood. Some of my earliest memories are watching Adventure 01 and 02 on Saturday mornings. I am so thankful that Digimon is making such a triumphant return with its latest installments in Digimon Beat Break and Digimon Story Time Stranger. But everything about this game is so beautiful and has been made with so much love that you can feel it oozing out of every corner of every area. All of my favorite Digimon are present. There are new Digimon, new story beats. We get to deal with an entirely new, upper crust, because we always deal with the Royal Knights, but now we're dealing with the Olympus 12. It's just perfect. The story is phenomenal and engaging. The animations are smooth and dynamic. It's really just like having my childhood brought back to me. Not even in a small way, but with aplomb. And what's more, I get to share it with my own kids now.
I swear this wasn't on purpose. We both wrote our own separate scripts for this video, and by coincidence, Dissidia Final Fantasy was number 2 for both of us.
Yep, totally unplanned. This game franchise has some big history between the two of us though, huh? Not surprised we both picked it, but it being number 2 for both of us is kinda neat.
Indeed. We've told the Dissidia story many times before, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. During my senior year of high school, I joined the Scholars Bowl team, and at one particular meet, while we were in between matches, my school's team was hanging out in the same room as one of the other teams. I noticed one of the team members was playing PSP, and I saw that he was playing Final Fantasy VIII. I had just recently gotten into Final Fantasy, starting with 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls on GBA, and then playing Dissidia for PSP, where I made Squall, the protag of FF8. The guy happened to be Ryo's friend, Vaughn, who we talked about earlier. Later in the meet, Vaughn would introduce me to Ryo. I traded phone numbers with both of them, and the rest is history. We talked Final Fantasy extensively, and we were very excited for the upcoming Dissidia prequel sequel, Duodecim. Even though both of our schools were about an hour away from each other, we'd meet up and spend hours playing Dissidia Duodecim after it came out, and became lifelong friends. One of my, I hesitate to call it fondest memories of this time, was when Ryo introduced me to what he calls the Satanic Onion Knight. You'll get to see him in action very soon. Trust me. I also made another good friend because of Dissidia. To give you the absolute shortest possible version of the story, around the same time I was playing Dissidia, I found a Super Smash Bros. Brawl video posted to YouTube where someone had used a hack to replace 2 of the characters with Cloud and Sephiroth. I got into an argument with one of the commenters, whose username was Tokyo Sikyo at the time, and after dozens of comments of debate, we decided to take the conversation to YouTube's private messaging. That should tell you how long ago this was. Eventually, we stopped arguing and just started talking about Final Fantasy, Dissidia, and other games we enjoyed. When YouTube stopped supporting private messaging, and when Google Plus just crashed and completely died, we moved our conversation to Facebook, and we still chat on a near daily basis. Oh, did I neglect to mention that this friend lives over in Europe? Yeah, he lives on a different continent, but our shared love for this game and series managed to collapse the distance of an entire ocean, and we still remain friends to this day.
Yeah, without this game, the long chain of shenanigans that led to the two of us becoming friends would never have even started. Sure, there were other titles that we essentially kinda grew up with together, but I'd say this was the linchpin for sure. Aside from that, and the countless hours of PvP in an Arby's lobby, the story of these games has also been a key factor in how I relate to the world, to be honest. I, to this day, stop and think, shape the future, whenever I'm feeling stuck with something. Other aspects affected are my DM style once again, because the story of this game is so engaging. It's affected my approach to competitive fighting games. I can still, to this day, hear "let's fight as brothers in arms" being said ad nauseum fighting Cecil Harvey as Squall. And it's also affected my overall skill in setting up character builds in all sorts of other games. See the Satanic Onion Knight. I could go on and on about other things, but to make matters simple, I owe a chosen brother and a lifetime of gaming that I may have never experienced to this franchise. And for that, I'm thankful.
As expected, I've saved the most important for the end. This one requires a bit more backstory than the others. So, I actually missed out on the entire Pokemon craze of the 90s and early 2000s, and I didn't actually own a game until the DS era. Sure, I would occasionally play the Game Boy games if I borrowed them from a friend or went to their house, but I didn't have the full experience. Then, around 2007 or 2008, my brother picked up a copy of Pokemon Pearl, and later on, he nagged me to get one of the DS games so that we could play together. I held out until 2010 and bought Pokemon Heart Gold at launch, and that started a multi-year obsession. This led to me wanting to consume as much Pokemon media as possible, albeit I was 15 years late to the party. But eventually, I got a copy of Pokemon Leaf Green as well. Remember I mentioned that Ryo and I met at a Scholars Bowl meet? After our schools played against each other, Vaughn saw that I was playing my Game Boy Advance and asked to see what Pokemon I had on my team. And when he saw that all my current Mons were named after Digimon, he turned and called over his shoulder, "Hey Ryo, come here, you'll like this guy." Even though Dissidia and Duodecim were the largest pillar in forming mine and Ryo's friendship, you could say that a combination of Dissidia, Final Fantasy VIII, Digimon, and Pokemon were the foundation of the pillar. Multiple factors working together, and this was the outcome. This wasn't the end of Pokemon's influence over my life, however. A few years later, I happened to meet a girl at a convention. We started talking about Pokemon and took a picture together. Later, when I uploaded it to the internet, she commented on it, and we started messaging back and forth. A year later, we started dating. 5 years after that, we were married. And we still are. That's right. I met my wife because of Pokemon. At the convention, she was wearing a rather cobbled-together Gijinka cosplay of Glaceon, which is how I noticed her, since Glaceon is my favorite of the evolutions. I've always had an affinity for ice types. The butterfly effect is quite a funny thing, isn't it? If I hadn't listened to my brother and bought Heart Gold when I did, not only would I not have met my best friend, but I also wouldn't have met my wife either. That's the power of gaming, nerddom, and shared passion.
This one is an odd one for me, as I am not really a huge Pac-Man player, nor am I particularly good at the games. But many years ago, I used to sit and watch my mom play this game. And man, she was good. I don't remember if she got perfect scores or anything like that, but I could tell you she went deathless. And that was just incredible to my young mind. And I guess the long story short for this one is she showed me that you could truly be good at something you loved if you sat down and took the time. This is probably my most formative memory as a gamer, and likely why I can even attain the heights of skill that I aspire to when I truly find the game that I love. So, I'm thankful for this game. I barely play, I guess because I'm thankful for my mom and everything that she's shown me.
Well, I gotta say, I think our scripts got a little more emotional than I was planning when I first pitched this idea.
A little bit.
But isn't that what the season's about?
Yeah.
Reflecting on things that you're thankful for?
Yeah.
So, I hope that all of you can do the same. I hope you've got things that you can be thankful for in your life, and I hope that you can take the time to recognize them and remember that, things may not always be as bad as they look. Things can and will get better. So, I hope all of you have a happy Thanksgiving, and for those who don't celebrate Thanksgiving, hope you have a great day in general, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.
Peace.
Special thanks to all Patreon supporters, including Mark Hastings. We're thankful for you, and for everyone who's watched our videos and supported us for this long. Happy holidays, everybody.